But you shouldn't hike alone, one of the other hikers, a young man told her. Find somebody else who's heading north and buddy up. Much safer. Oh, I'll be fine. Her voice was easy and confident. Once I get up to the main trail, there'll be other hikers and forestry people all over the place, plus rest stops and campsites. I've hiked that area before. Okay, but that's miles away. It's the from here to there part that's a little hairy. I'll be fine, she repeated. I have plenty of rations, all the right equipment, including pepper spray, and even, she lowered her voice, a little gun, just in case. Bears don't take much notice of little guns, one of the other hikers said dryly. I know how to be safe from bears. The gun is for any two-legged trouble. Her voice was still easy and confident. He made a mental note about the gun, pleased rather than discouraged. It was usually so easy. Maybe this time it wouldn't be. Maybe his rose had a few thorns to make things interesting. He noted how far she had progressed with her lunch and decided he had time to go make a few preparations for the hunt. As he moved away, he could feel his heart beginning to pump, feel the adrenaline flowing through his body. He loved the hunt. It was almost the best part. Stubborn sister or not, Emma wouldn't have been human if she hadn't tried. Jessie, you can talk to me, even if we've never been close. We are still family. And I know this town and its people better than you do, or at least now. Well, when I figure out what questions to ask, maybe I'll take you up on that. In the meantime, I'm more or less fumbling in the dark, just looking for something that sparks the right memories. I need to do that alone. Emma, you can't help me. Jessie. I need time. And I'm asking you to give me that. Just don't tell anyone. I'm trying to remember what happened that summer. Because you know it was bad. Because I don't know. And I don't know who's involved if it was bad. And we both know what a small town gossip mill can do to reputations. Especially if it only has speculation to work with. I don't want anybody speculating about the past, not until I have a handle on it myself. They can be curious about why I came home, but I can make it look like it's the property I'm interested in, my inheritance, and that should satisfy most people and won't surprise anybody. I need you to go along with me on this, Emma. I'm asking you to promise me. I'm betting you still take your promises seriously. I do, but listen. I came back here to finally close the door on the past. I have to do that my own way. Promise me. All right, damn it, I promise. Pinky swear. Emma smiled for the first time, if a bit wryly, and held a hand across the table, so her little finger could hook briefly with Jessie's. Pinky swear. Jessie hadn't realized she was so tense until she felt herself slump. She managed to smile in return. Thank you. We all have to deal with our own luggage, that's just part of mine. Emma leaned back in her chair and sighed. I have a feeling I'm going to regret that promise. I thought I heard you last night. Did you have a nightmare? I don't remember, maybe. I have them sometimes. She was gazing almost absently at Emma and was surprised to see a fleeting reaction cross that familiar face. She wasn't sure what it meant, and for the first time she wished she wasn't trying so hard to keep Emma's thoughts from slipping through her walls. About? I don't remember what they're about, Jessie said. By the way, this house definitely haunted. Her tone was matter-of-fact. Emma recognized a deflection when she heard one, but she was too interested not to follow. Seriously? Oh, yeah. I've seen half a dozen of the dearly departed in various places, especially downstairs. Judging by the clothing from more than 1 era going all the way back to Civil War days. So all the way back to when at least parts of this house were built. Yeah, a couple of spirits in more recent dress, but I didn't recognize them. Probably not surprising. And they didn't communicate with you. Not so far. Sometimes spirits don't need help from the living. They just don't want to leave for whatever reason. But if it's any comfort, they seem totally benign. You used to say the place was haunted, but it was something you just felt. You never said you saw anything. You see ghosts all the time now. I see them, but here they're clearer than I've ever been able to see them before. Maybe because I grew up here, I don't know. Still, it's a little surprising because I've never been unusually strong as a medium, and because my walls are still up. Walls you learned to build at this haven place you told me about where you work. Jessie nodded. It's a sister organization, privately run, but also linked unofficially to a unit inside the FBI. And what those people don't know about psychic abilities isn't worth knowing. Neither the mainstream nor the fringe element has a clue, believe me. Seriously. Oh yeah. Way more things in heaven and earth than most people can possibly imagine. Things being studied and used in the field by the Special Crimes Unit and by Haven. And the first thing we're taught, whether Haven operative or SCU agent, is how to build or use our walls, or shields some call them. So we have some sort of control over our abilities and can protect ourselves. Protect yourselves from what? Negative energy, usually from other psychics, bad guys. They're as likely to have psychic ability as are the good guys. As the good guys are, maybe more so. As her sister continued to look questioningly, Jessie went on. It's all based on energy, the energy the human body and the human brain produces. Think of psychics as having a receiver they can tune to certain frequencies. On one frequency, maybe you tune in spiritual energy, and so you see or hear spirits. On another frequency, maybe you tune in the energy of someone's thoughts, the way you do mine. Jessie nodded. According to SCU research and experience, the reason no telepath can read 100% of the people around them isn't because of anybody's shields or even the strength and control of the telepath, but because every human mind is unique, tuned to its own frequency, and a psychic's range of frequency is naturally finite, limited, like any other sense, and varying from psychic to psychic. I can read you sometimes, but not always, and even that doesn't mean every other telepath you encounter would be able to. And there are lots of people whose thoughts I'll never hear. Really lots, in fact, since my range appears to be very narrow. But you're worried about how well your walls are working here, or not working. Well, they're not working the way they're supposed to. As tightly buttoned up as I thought I was, I shouldn't be picking up your thoughts, but they keep slipping through. I shouldn't be seeing spirits, and they're everywhere. This really is a very haunted town. Most of the ghost hunters who come here tell us that, but the locals generally seem to humor them rather than believe them. I'm not surprised. What most ghost hunters tend to view as evidence is pretty damn thin. Once you get involved in the real thing, though, it stops being about proof and starts being about how you can control your abilities and use them productively. So, you build walls. Jessie nodded. We build walls. So why aren't your walls holding things out? That is the question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer. Yet, anyway. She hesitated, then said, Emma, have there been any murders in Barren Hollow? Emma started visibly. What, recently? Not that I know of. You know, there have been killings over the years, hence some of our better-known ghosts, but crimes like murder don't really happen in Barren Hollow, not these days. She frowned. Why do you ask? Just curious. Thought I might be able to help out the police chief if there were any local unsolved homicides. Who is the police chief anyway? Anybody I know? He's closer to Victor's age than yours, I think. Dan Maitland? Doesn't sound familiar. And he's not crazy about ghost hunters, who we see a lot of, and who he has to be polite to because they're paying tourists. And he's also not very fond of any kind of non-police investigation, so it might not be smart to tell him you're basically a private investigator who's also psychic. I don't plan to tell anybody that, Jessie responded lightly. Do me a favor and keep it to yourself. In spite of the fleeting idea that I might be able to help the local cops, I don't really come here for a busman's holiday. Exactly why did you come? How do you mean to go about closing those doors in the past, and what are your nightmares about? Those parties you say you don't really remember, or something else? But Emma didn't ask out loud, and Jessie pretended that more thoughts from her sister hadn't slipped through her walls designed to hold them out. There wasn't a lot to do in Barren Hollow on a Sunday, and Jessie was too restless to stay at Rayburn House, so she went out for another walk after lunch. She knew that virtually all the downtown businesses, excepting a couple of restaurants routinely open since breakfast, opened up shortly after church let out, but were seldom busy, and she wanted to explore a bit in less crowded conditions than those she had experienced the day before. As she strolled, pausing now and then to study the contents of a storefront window, she told herself that she neither expected nor wanted to encounter another spirit. Her walls, after all, were as solid as she could possibly make them, and at least half her concentration was fixed on keeping them that way. At the same time, what the spirit had told her yesterday was also very much on her mind. A killer here. Jessie had been with Haven too long not to have learned that killers could be found in the most unlikely of places, often hiding in plain sight in unsuspecting little towns just like Barren Hollow, tourist towns, and her knowledge of that made it all the more worrisome. And despite Maggie's instructions for her to concentrate on why she had come here, Jessie was nagged by the possibility of a killer hunting in this small town, and nagged even more by the messy worry that if that was happening, it was somehow connected to all the buried stuff that had finally brought her back home. If she had learned anything in recent years working with Haven, it was that true coincidences were rare, and that the universe tended to put you where you were for a very good reason. Was she here to uncover more than her past? Would uncovering her past also expose a killer? Her imagination or trained psychic intuition? She wasn't sure. That was the problem. Almost from the moment she'd hit town, she had been nagged by uncertainty and doubts. But was that so unusual? Coming back after years to a place that held negative memories and even triggered stronger nightmares was bound to mess with her head. And she learned that psychics were especially vulnerable to that kind of thing, being influenced by their surroundings and by the baggage banging against their heels. So maybe her mind had simply conjured a spirit warning of a killer, because as much as she wanted to deny it, as much as she tried to deny it for years, she was afraid of this place. Afraid to remember. Jessie? Damn, it is you. Despite being caught off guard by the timing, this was a meeting Jessie had prepared herself for. She turned to face her cousin Victor Rayburn, who was physically more impressive at 40 than he had been at 25, but who still wore on his handsome face the lazy half-smile that had caused more than one teenage girl to melt into a senseless puddle at his feet. Jessie didn't melt this time. Victor, I'm surprised you weren't in church. Because I needed to be, or because the town expected me to be? He looked and sounded amused. 6 of 1, Jessie shrugged and slipped her hands into the front pockets of her jeans. I hear you're the man here in town. That must make you happy. It makes life pleasant, he admitted, still smiling. Yeah, I'll bet. And what about you, Jessie? What have you done with your life since you left Barren Hollow? This and that. Job, school, career, usual stuff. Career? Funny, I never imagined you having a career. You never seemed to have a specific interest when you were a kid. Well, we all grow up, don't we? Jessie had no intention of telling Victor one bit more than she had to about her life, so she changed the subject abruptly. Emma says you want to buy some of the land Dad left me. Yeah, that parcel out by Willow Creek Church. Even the flatland so close to the mountain slopes isn't good for much. Not farming or even pasture, but it adjoins land my family's owned for generations. I'll pay the fair market price, Jessie. Get your own appraisal if you want. Maybe I'll do that. Well, I'd appreciate it if you make a decision before you leave town again. Otherwise, the whole thing will stay in limbo. Emma won't part with an acre, and Trent isn't going to sell off anything of yours without specific instructions to do so. I'll let you know, Victor. Good enough. See you around, Jessie, and welcome home. He reached out to grasp her bare arm, squeezing it briefly, then went on his way past her.